In today's world, we are increasingly dependent on technology. Our business and personal lives rely on it, but as you've probably noticed, it's unreliable. Our computers are slow, so we end up squinting at smartphones and tablets. The jokers we pay to fix our stuff have no clue what they're doing. We live in constant fear that something's going to happen to our personal data. So we're scared into paying for fake protection that proves useless when disaster strikes. Update attacks, fake Wi-Fi, cloud control, intelligent, successful people feel intimidated by the chaos and think it's somehow their fault. If they only knew what the industry was doing to them, they'd get torches and pitchforks. If only we had someone to explain it all in plain English so we can start protecting ourselves. Oh wait, we do! It's the Computer Exorcist Podcast with your host, Mark Anthony Arena.
From the Wallace Memorial microphone in my home office, overlooking the can of worms in downtown Rochester, New York, this is the Computer Exorcist Podcast. I am so glad you have joined us today. We have another fascinating special guest. It's Emily Marino. Tell us what you do.
I help perimenopausal moms lose weight, ditch their brain fog, sleep like babies, and wake up feeling energized and confident. And the reason why I do this is because I want to make this world healthier with nature, going back to the basic.
Yeah, I say it all the time on my show. It's all about going back to basics. My industry is obsessed with ultra complicating itself, and more so every day. So it sounds like it's not just my industry, right? Whenever I have a guest on, I relate what I do to what they do. And more often than not, or pretty much every time actually, it's, hey, wait a minute, we're doing the same concepts here. We're keeping things simple and avoiding the complication. And also avoiding all of the deceptive practices and so on. So how did you get involved in this, and why did you pick your target audience, and why are you different? Because I know we've talked about this, and off the air we've talked about this, and I say, all right, Emily, hold on, those are awesome. Make sure you say these. Oh.
Well, the reason why I picked my target audience is that I was going to become an attorney. And I decided that I was going to learn how I can minimize the crime system and help society in that manner. And once I did my final paper as a juvenile delinquency, I realized that, hey, most of the problems that we're having are nutritional problems.
Whoa.
It's like people don't realize when your sugar is low, you're going to be more triggered. When you are, deficiency in nutrients, you have internal stress that actually creates those external stress much harder for you to cope with. So when you feed the body the right thing, you are actually more tolerant of what's going on in terms of stress around you.
Oh, and I've had that. Absolutely, where I'm just hangry, right? And I'm hangry, and I forget to eat all day, and I'm screaming at traffic, and I'm thinking to myself, this isn't me. This isn't how I normally act. Normally, I'm really, really cool about things, normally, except for the past 15 years.
And you know what? There's been studies. There was a study done in Germany that they talked about how giving inmates a multivitamin, not even a good one, like just giving them a multivitamin, reduced the recidivism of altercations and fights, and they just manage a lot better just because they were able to cope with the external stress of where they were. And somebody picking on them, all of a sudden it's like you're in traffic. It's not as annoying when you're like, okay, when your body's feeling in homeostasis,
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense, because I started taking vitamins and that helped me a lot. And especially certain ones, that I was lacking. That's really interesting. So
I like to target the vitamins. I say, where does that vitamin come from? Why don't we look at the food? Why are we not going back to the basic? Get the real McCoy. Get the real stuff. Get the omega-3 from the small fish like sardines or salmon. Something that makes more sense, and then supplement if you're not getting enough. Go to the chia seeds, flax seeds, and all those other wonderful products that have no side effect.
That's another huge point, because everyone I know is on some kind of medicine, and it fixes one thing and it breaks 10 other things. That's another concept I talk about on this show constantly, right?
Yep,
A software
exactly.
update will fix one thing and it'll break 20 other things. So that's a huge parallel as well. Okay, so instead of taking pills...
Yeah, instead of taking pills, focus on the food. So I target my audience as perimenopausal mom because I figure that's where I'm going to change society. That's where I'm going to make the most difference in terms of helping the family structure. So as I was targeting my audience, I realized, wow, all these other things happens because during perimenopausal, which is a stage between 7 to 10 years, we lose estrogen. Estrogens affects every single organ of our body, every single one of them. You're talking about the liver, the heart, the brain, the bones. So, like a lot of times during that time, which could be from mid 40s to 50s, or sometimes as early as 32 these days because of the nonsense food we're eating, which is damaging our hormones.
Really?
It makes a big difference, So estrogen, contrary to most popular belief, it's a hormone that is an antioxidant. It's the best antioxidants we have. And when a woman start losing estrogen, they start getting headaches. They're more susceptible to joint pains, heart palpitation, anxiety, depression. This is the stage where the woman is going most likely to commit suicide. That's why they put an antidepressant. So
okay, wait. So it's because they're losing antioxidants, because estrogen is an antioxidant. That I never knew.
Yes.
So it's here again, and I see this all the time. People are shooting in the dark, right? They're grasping in the dark. They don't know what's going on, and it sounds like a lot of times the doctors don't know. I mean, this is the first I've heard.
Unfortunately, a lot of the doctors have not been trained in nutrition and how things work.
I see this same thing. A lot of the computer guys have zero training.
Exactly. So, if you don't know, you're doing the best you can. Unfortunately, you're not helping your customer. You're not helping your patient.
Right. They're doing the best they can, but they don't have the... Wow.
So when the estrogen goes down, it actually predisposes a woman to having autoimmune diagnosis. Most women get diagnosed with autoimmune during this perimenopausal stage because the antioxidant is no longer there to buffer up any other problems that they might be predisposed to,
Mm-hmm.
They're also more susceptible to becoming asthmatic. All of a sudden, they are being diagnosed with HDHD, which makes no sense because they should have had that diagnosed early on. But no, they're getting diagnosed at this stage.
So they're becoming asthmatic. They have ADHD. Hey, maybe I have this. No, that's just my problem.
I think it's exclusively to women, Mark.
Yeah, okay, all right, okay.
You're immune to this one. It's also, what happens during this stage, also part of the estrogen is produced in your gut. So because you're losing your estrogen, you're also damaging your microbiome, which triggers also asthma that is resistant to bronchodilator.
Whoa. Yeah, and that's a whole other episode. Your gut is it does everything for you. Yeah.
You're more predisposed to having headaches. You're predisposed to having, like I said, autoimmune. Very common for a woman to be diagnosed with Hashimoto, MS, all these other autoimmune that come along with the low estrogen. Frozen shoulder, for example, is something that people don't think has anything to do with perimenopause. But guess what? When your estrogen goes down, your shoulder is one of those places that has so much receptor. We move it around and it's good until we don't have that lubrication and that anti-inflammation that comes with estrogen. So
now you got inflammation.
Now you have a moody woman, or as as one of the doctors who talks about this, because she's now focused on menopause, she says a whining woman. That's what they used to call us. Because they're in paperwork, we look great. Our blood works look great. Nothing looks different because they're not checking for that. They're not checking for your estrogen. They're not checking for your hormones. So we look good. We look good in paper. We're depressed. We are anxious. We're easily triggered because now we don't have the antioxidants. So we have heightened inflammation. And remember what we were talking about the traffic? You're low in nutrients.
Mm-hmm.
Your diet has to change. and you will tend to get more weight right around the waist because we become more like a man. We no longer have that estrogen buffering us off where we would get the hip weight.
And
we get the belly.
So you can't just keep eating Burger King, right?
Not anymore. And if you want to sleep, don't drink.
Really?
Because it affects your sleep. Your estrogen goes down. That means you're not releasing an egg. That means your follicle, which is the one that produces progesterone, is no longer active. Guess what progesterone does for us? Helps us sleep. And if you trigger a little bit of alcohol, you got to trade that off. So alcohol is off the limits when you're perimenopausal.
Really?
Yeah. You got to trade that off. Are you going to sleep or are you going to drink? One of the two has to be chosen. And the side effect after that will be even worse. And that's just the beginning.
Okay. So obviously you know your stuff here. When we talked before the show, one of the things there's two things I want to talk about that I want to ask you. Number one, the way you put it, the way you explained food, and maybe actually we'll start with this. So people are hangry, people are yelling at traffic, that's fine. If you have a better diet, you're more prone to being relaxed during those small situations. But what about someone who has actual major stress and major trauma, where there's a real... So I want to ask you about that.
Yeah, it does. Listen, when you're under a lot of stress, and I'm talking about stress like you're going through a major divorce, or you're working in a chronic job where you hate your job, and it's just a chronic stress. When you're under stress, it doesn't matter what you eat. You got to fix that environment first, because you could eat the most nutritious food, a plate of broccoli, and your body's not gonna synthesize it the same.
Really? Yeah. How did you put it when we talked the other day? It was something really great. It was like when you're under stress, it doesn't matter how much broccoli.
It does. Your body doesn't recognize it as something nutritious. It doesn't matter how much broccoli you eat. You're not going to absorb the nutrient.
Because you're in fight or flight mode and your body's just more focused on the cortisol, correct?
Exactly. Your body's focused on getting out of that situation. And so you're in that fight and flight mode. When you're in that fight and flight mode, you're getting blood circulating on your extremities. So if you're not getting any mixed section circulation, or your blood vessels are constricted because of this fight and flight mode, it doesn't matter how much broccoli you eat. Wow. You're not going to get that nutrient. You might as well create a nice, relaxing environment where you could eat junk and you get more nutrients out of that.
Wow, because your body's more relaxed and it can do what it needs to do there, and it can handle that.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
And that explains, again, for me, over the past 10, 15 years of super stress, I tried to eat better, and that's good, but I still was a mess because I just hadn't dealt with the stress yet, and a lot of other factors. So,
and you know what, Mark? If you're eating with somebody that you like, somebody that you feel comfortable and safe with, the same food that you will eat with somebody that you dislike, you are getting totally different information for your cells.
What?
Your cells will make that food more nutritious, almost like your body understands, hey, this is great, we're in a great place, absorb. Your blood vessels are dilated, waiting for the nutrients because you're in such a calm state.
Really?
Yeah. And if you eat like the food that you eat, and you eat it in a state of stress, or you have a stressful moment, even up to 2 hours later, you're not absorbing that nutrient the same way. And you are actually increasing close to 150 more calories for the same food that normally wouldn't have been because of the cortisol that went up during that process.
Really?
Yeah. So stress management is priority if you want to absorb your nutrients.
So it's kind of like... Yeah, so it's like if I went to White Castle or Waffle House with my cousin and we're picking out on whatever we want, but we're happy, that's a lot better than sitting alone with my demons in front of me, so to speak, sitting alone with my problems and my trauma in front of me, or whatever stressful life that's going on, right?
For sure. Really? I prefer you go and get something healthy, but yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Because remember, whatever you put in your mouth is what you're making your cells out of.
Yeah, tell me what you said something about food is your programming, is your information. Tell me about that.
Yeah, food is not something you put in your stomach to fill yourself up and make yourself full. Food is information. Food is what you're telling your body, make me out of this. And if you give it junk, it's going to make it out of junk, which is going to predispose you to other array of problems, medical complications and stuff like that. And not to mention, triggers inflammation because your body half of the time doesn't recognize half of the things we eat because of all the processed stuff.
And I might add, too, and this is totally off topic, but I find a parallel here, that if you're watching shows, you notice how 99% of shows on Netflix are killing shows right now?
Oh,
If we as
I'm
a
a big
society...
believer of that.
Right. If we as a society are watching, are ingesting, and then they wonder why everyone's killing each other, and then they wonder if 99% of the shows on streaming services are killing shows, hello?
Well, Mark, I have something better for you there. If you're watching that, the body doesn't know, your brain doesn't know the difference.
Your brain thinks you're actually in a real dangerous
if
situation?
Exactly.
What?
Exactly. Your brain doesn't know the difference. I guard my brain like a bag of gold. I don't watch junk. I don't put the radio on unless it's something profitable that's going to enhance my well-being. I don't watch TV. I don't do any of that stuff. When I watch YouTube, it's nutritionist stuff for my brain.
Yeah, it's good shows like the Computer Exorcist podcast.
Exactly.
But yeah, and the Bible says guard your heart, right? There's a reason for that. They're not just saying that to make your life difficult. There's a reason for that.
Yeah, God gives it to you in that book. Everything you need to know is we got to apply it. We got to read it and apply it. You know. Totally agree. I guard my brain. I guard my eyes sees, and I guard what my ears hear because it makes a big difference with the way you perceive life and the way you perceive stress. And once you see that stressor, you all of a sudden you see it everywhere.
So
even when there isn't there.
Oh wow. So if you're always thinking about and that's really fascinating. So if you're always watching crime shows on TV, then your brain doesn't know the difference. Wow.
No, your brain gets stressed just the same. Well, haven't you watched a scary movie and you're like, you get scared and your heart like almost stops, right?
Good point. That's a very immediate example of that. And also, I love driving around listening to political talk shows in the car. And I try to keep up in current events and yada yada. But guess what? If I switch it over to the jazz station, I'll notice like a day later, I'm like, I'm in a really good mood. Right? Yes. And there's something to that. It's not immediate. It's like a day later, but there's something to that, Mark.
I'll give you a way that you can make it immediate, though. Deep breathing. You can make it immediate. You could change your sympathetic state to a parasympathetic. We could affect the way our heart beat and our brain gets oxygen. So you take deep breath, a long deep breath in, and take another one, little one, and then exhale slowly. And you'll see that you change even the way your heart beats. You change everything. You change your perception. You actually go from that stressful of, I got to run from a saber-tooth tiger to like, I'm okay. I always tell my clients, before you eat, deep breath, relax, meditate, pray. We had to pray over our food. When you pray, that gets you in that parasympathetic state where you relax and you absorb your nutrients a little better.
Now, and really quick before we go to the article, have you seen that there was a phenomenon that they talk about in a lot of movies, like the What the Bleep Do We Know movie, and they talk about this, where if people pray or say good things and say good ideas in front of water, that it crystallizes in a better way. Like, is that the same with your food? Is that...
Well, you know what? That's funny. I was just watching something like that the other day. It does make a difference because we are creators. We are creators. We are made in the image of God. We have more power than we are aware of. Remember what Jesus says, that if you have the faith of a grain of mustard, you can ask a mountain to move. I don't think he was I think he was really being straightforward. You don't need to have. So if you pray, it's almost like you're giving that water good energy, the food the same way. You're
Wow.
almost getting your body into connected with that energy, and then all of a sudden it's like that food is very well received. So
And
your state of your mind makes a difference.
there's a parallel here because I always talk about, right, the world doesn't want you to know that. The world wants you to depend on them for pills to make you feel better and depend on them for services. So I'm going to read this article real quick and then I'll get your opinion on it. But this is exactly what I'm talking about here, where the world loves complexity and they love you depending on them, right? And instead
it gives
of
you
that,
power.
right. I went through a lot of terrible things. I'm writing a book about it, and the only thing that helped me is my own inner peace. No external thing helped me.
You ever heard of Dr. Wayne Dyer?
Heard the name.
I actually grew up reading all his stuff, Mark. He always said, the things, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.
Whoa.
Also,
yeah, can you say that when we... Yeah.
that's Dr. Wayne Dyer. Yeah, when you change, it's like, so when you are relaxed and you're like breathing and you're praying for your food, all of a sudden you see that food as something more nutritious, something that's blessed. And you change the way you look at it, right?
Whoa.
And the things you look at change. And that makes a big difference with the way we absorb it. He also says that which you focus on multiplies.
That's huge.
That's Dr. Wayne Dyer, so that's not mine. But I grew up reading all his stuff. That is why I am the way I am. I grew up reading his stuff, and I'm focused on the Bible, which kind of goes along his way, but a little more into why it happens.
Right, if I'm sitting around worrying about debt, right? That only goes so far. But if I'm sitting around saying, all right, I'm going to use this energy in my head to focus on writing documents and focus on giving talks.
Mark, I got you one better. Mm-hmm. Gratitude. One of the things I do with my client. Gratitude writing. When you start your day with gratitude, you see things differently. Life is different. Now you live in a world where beauty exists and love and kindness exists for you. Where if you go out there and you have not one thing to be grateful for, or you don't see the world and you're just stuck in traffic and I'm running late and it's a whole different world.
Yesterday my hot water heater exploded, and I always have a problem in my house, right? But whenever I leave the house, I say, thank you, God, for this crazy, ridiculous house, because it's crazy, but despite all that, I have a place to live, and I have laundry and so on. All right. So let's do the article. This is carandriver.com from 2021. Car hacking danger is likely closer than you think. Connected cars are great until they're not. I love how they said that. That sums it all up. It's great until they're not. There were at least 150 automotive cybersecurity incidents in 2019, part of a 94% year-over-year increase since 2016. Here's a phrase we're loath to see, even though we're likely to come across it plenty more in the future. Ransomware for cars. And that's actually not true, because we would have seen that by now. And it's not true because most cars aren't infected with Microsoft technology. Remember, when I give talks about computers, it's only Microsoft computers that are susceptible to ransomware. It's happened on non-Microsoft products before, but it's astronomically unlikely. Okay? So, number one, they say it is impossible to remotely hack into an unconnected car. Of course, it's a piece of metal. It's a mechanical thing. You can't hack into a piece of metal with wheels on it, right? I have a 20-year-old car and a 40-year-old car, and no one is ever going to hack into it. It's fine forever. All right? So, and again, I'm obsessed with reliability. So, if I had a client call me last week and he said, well, I have this vendor and he's suggesting this thing, I'd say, look, if you love ultra complexity for absolutely no reason, go right ahead. But I'm obsessed with reliability because I want your office phone system to work all the time. So they say if it can connect, it can be hacked to some degree. Gardnox Cyber Technologies says the more sophisticated the system is, the more connected your vehicle is, the more exposed you are. We've taken whatever model car you can think of, and we hack them. I can control your steering, I can shut down and start your engine, control your brakes, your doors, your wipers, open and close your trunk. Right? And unfortunately, they have to have these car cyber companies now because you have a pile of billions of features, and then people automatically think you need piles of billions of security. And we'll come back to that in a second. They're gaining control over Tesla's entire connected vehicle fleet by exploiting a vulnerability in the server-side mechanism. And I want to point out here that the Tesla cars themselves run on Linux technology, which is non-Microsoft, so no one can ever break into them. But the server side, for some reason, some bobblehead over there decided to trust Microsoft Azure for their servers. So that's why those are totally fair game and they're open to anyone. So they also said you can gain full control of an OEM's corporate network, right? So the auto manufacturer's corporate network, the computers on the desk in Detroit, by reverse engineering a vehicle's telematics control unit and infiltrating the network. I think that's really cool because it means, hey, you got this evil computer in my car trying to spy on me, and I can actually turn it against you and break into your computer systems in Detroit. There was a 99% increase in cybersecurity incidents in 2019, with more communication methods built into new vehicles, including massive over-the-air update technologies. This trend is unlikely to reverse anytime soon. Thank you. At least this article acknowledges that update attacks are a security hole. Updates will destroy. Just like we talked about with all the pills, right? You take one pill, you're hoping to fix something, and it breaks 20 more things. This author realizes that updates are destructive, and it's a great security hole. This means automakers have to take a proactive stance, and defense strategy is to ask... Right now what they're doing is they're asking white hat hackers, like good guys, to show them where the cars are vulnerable, okay? C2A Security expects the current trend of hackers holding digital data on computers for ransom, in other words, ransomware, to move over to cars, right? Ransomware is when they break into your Windows computer and hold all of your documents and photos hostage until you give them ransom. And again, like I said a few minutes ago, they can't do this unless the car is infected with Microsoft technology. So if they ever did a ransomware to a car, the driver would not be able to start their vehicle until they pay off a hacker. And you'll have to get it towed and get all new software installed to start it, right? Best Buy would love that. Places like any big box store loves that because that's their source of revenue. And that's horrible because they make money off of people suffering. They don't actually want to stop that. I'm the only one in the industry trying to stop that. Okay? And again, it hasn't happened because it would have happened by now, right? You know, remember when a lot of people used to say, well, the only reason Microsoft computers are broken into is because they're the majority of the computers in the world. Well, guess what? Now that the iPhone is the majority computer used in the world, no one can ever break into an iPhone because it's non-Microsoft. Okay? So it's highly unlikely. So none of that ransomware stupidity happens on an iPhone. No one breaks into that. So there you go. Ransomware attacks have already happened at the Australian transportation company Toll Group, and Honda was forced to shut down production in June 2020 due to ransomware attacks in their plants in Europe and Japan. Again, has nothing to do with the cars. It was the Microsoft computers at their production plants. Okay, folks, that's huge, and people need to understand that, right? Because everything in my industry is misconception and rumor and legend and false misinformation, as I'm sure it is with yours.
Yes.
So, last little bit here, and then I'll get your opinion. Upstream Security recommends 3 ways an automaker can build secure vehicles, and they're all complicated. First, security has to be a part of every component. Second, there needs to be a multi-layered cybersecurity solution, in-vehicle IT network and cloud security defenses, right? We're going to have to do the 9-factor scandal. You're going to have to do 90 passwords just to get into your car door, right? And third, automakers need to develop Vehicle Security Operations Center to monitor and detect and quickly respond to cyber incidents to protect your vehicles and fleets and users. And no, again, that's all whack-a-mole. This is wrong and this is evil. This method is wrong and evil and terrible. It's whack-a-mole, and it's about containment, right? How about not having everything connected? How about stopping for 2 seconds and realizing that we can stop this very easily by just stopping for 5 seconds and saying, hey, we don't need all of this evil garbage. None of it is necessary. If you want a nice infotainment screen in your dashboard, that's great. You can put one of those in a 20-year-old car, and you can have your fun infotainment screen, but the 20-year-old car doesn't have evil wires all over it and evil sensors all over it. So that's it. You can have the colorful entertainment screen without all the control. There is no reason for this. All right, Emily Marino, what's your opinion?
Well, it sounds like they're doing to the car industry the same thing that they have done to the body.
What?
They're trying to hijack every aspect of control that a human being has.
Whoa. Whoa. For profit?
For profit.
To keep you coming back.
Keep you coming back. Keep you needing them. It's like the people who are diabetic keep on taking the pills. Change your diet, for crying out loud. Change your software. You just said, why not? Instead of using Microsoft, why don't you use something like what Texas uses? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's like, change your Microsoft ware, and then just change the way you normally would do things.
Right.
Step back and see.
Avoiding Microsoft and avoiding ultra-complex sensors and avoiding all this connected control stuff, right? It's two different things.
Simple. Yeah, keep it simple. Don't attach the whole communication. Like you said, why are we getting updates all the time?
Yeah, there's absolutely no need.
There's no need for it, right? If it's working properly, why are we getting update?
Yeah, and you know what, too? That actually, it brings up a good point, is it's just like letting the stress into your body, right? If you let someone get to you, then you let the stress into your body. You're the ones welcoming them in, right?
Exactly.
So if I have a connected car and I'm letting a bad guy take over the steering wheel and the wipers, why would you have that?
Why are you giving that much power away?
Whoa. There's no reason to open your car up or your body up to that vulnerability, right?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Why are you giving that much power away? Oh, that's a key. I'm writing that down. That's amazing. How can people go to your website if my mom or my aunt or someone wants to hire you?
Well, you could find me at Rediscover Health. My number here is 585-831-7931.
rediscoverhealthrock.com. That's rediscoverhealthroc.com.
Yeah.
Real good. Thanks so much for being on the show. Muchas gracias por aparecer en The Computer Exorcist Podcast y que tenga buen día.
Gracias, Mark.
And visítame en thecomputerexorcist.com to find out more about me.